Welcome to Most Famous We Are Not. This is take 2. Your boy that made a mistake. I was not recording audio. We are not recording audio. So I'm going to have my man here. We got my man Malcolm Grant, man I have really high respect for, and someone that's very articulate and has a lot of stories, and someone I look up to as far as being smart. And he was been in the military for an extended period of time, and he's going to tell us our experiences. Malcolm Grant. I know it's take 2, but could you tell us how you grew up, how young you are, and how was your household growing up?
Well, I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a lot. We were under the poverty line most of the time, and we struggled just like other people in that circumstance. So a lot of people have my same upbringing as far as single parent home with a strict mother.
Mm-hmm.
4 siblings. There's never enough to go around, whether it's money, time, resources.
Was your relationship strong with your mother, or how do you?
So I had a really strong relationship with my mom because I really never knew my dad. Mm-hmm. Right, my sisters and brothers, their fathers, were in their lives at some point in time. My father was never in my life, so. My mom was my mom and my dad to me. For the longest time, I used to send her Father's Day cards, right? Wow. Because she, everyone makes mistakes. I can't say she did a perfect job of it. Yeah. But she raised me to the point that I knew right from wrong, and I had a general sense of what it was to be a man, without really having a lot of male role models who stuck around long enough to ensure that would happen.
Gotcha. Yeah, you turned out great. At least the man in front of me today was a man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. So, you went to the military. How did you make that decision going to the military?
I wanted to go in the military. I didn't know which branch I was going to go into. I had it extremely high ASVAB score. And that's the test that you take to join. So when I joined, I had my pick of whatever job that I wanted, and I chose intelligence. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I had an incident where I had to spend some time in jail. Mm-hmm. So I spent the summer of like my 11th grade year in jail. So when I got out, my contract was revoked, and if I wanted to go in, then I had to go into the Marine Corps, of course, which is where I decided. And if I had to go in, I had to go in under an open contract, which led me to a FDC, which is one of the hardest schools in the Marine Corps. At that time, I think it had like a 65-70% failure rate for that class. Wow. And so out of like 25 some odd people, I was one of the 8 that graduated. Wow. And actually, I think at that time there was no more than a handful of us as far as people of my complexion. Yeah. There wasn't
How many black people were there
in that job?
How many black people were there
in that job in the whole Marine Corps at that time? Yeah. I think maybe 10 or 15.
Wow. Wow.
So it was an extremely hard school, and a lot of people like me didn't have the necessary educational background to get there. But I was just one of those kids that when I wasn't out and about, I was in a book. Yeah. I would get lost in books. So a lot of what I learned was that way.
And then so I'll actually this again, but did you do any workouts? And so you were obviously gifted like mentally with like books and stuff and retaining knowledge. So you just thought that would smoothly transfer. Did you study for the ASVAB test? Or?
I didn't, because it's basically a general knowledge test and an aptitude test of maybe a math and English skills. Right? I don't think it delves too much into history, but I was in advanced placement classes. Yeah. Right?
So you've always been smart.
I just hung out with the wrong people. Yeah. I actually graduated about 3 people. I did all their homework. I wanted my friends to graduate too. I didn't want them. Right?
Yeah, you clutch, man. Man, there's so many people that would kill for a man like you in their corner.
They provided me with, a sense of family when my sense of family at home wasn't stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you run me through that first week? Did you make any friends that first time around? How were you socially?
In boot camp?
Yeah.
Okay, so in boot camp, I was close to. Funny story. My cousin actually went to boot camp with me. We were in the same platoon, and everything was smooth until they found out he was my cousin. And then they messed with us a little bit, but he ended up getting hurt, and he didn't graduate with my platoon. He ended up falling back to another platoon. He graduated after I did, but we both ended up being Marines. But I think he didn't make it through his entire service contract because, once again, you know, the way we grew up, you know, certain behaviors are acceptable, and in the Marine Corps, certain behaviors are not.
Yeah.
And he couldn't adjust in the same way. It took me a while to adjust as well.
Yeah.
Right. I got in trouble when I first joined the Marine Corps. I got in trouble a lot because I was defiant. I didn't like people touching me or poking me or putting their hands in my face. Because
not many people do.
That was they do it a lot in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So,
no, I'm saying not many people do like being touched and poked.
Well, I don't like that at all. Like, to the extreme.
Yeah.
And so when that would happen, my first instinct was to rebel. So if you were a superior and you poked me in my chest, then I was going to break all protocol, stare you in your eye, look at you, and tell you what I felt about that.
Yeah. And
that's not the way the military works.
Yeah.
Right? So I rebelled. I got my ears pierced and got caught. Like I would just, to me in the beginning, I took it seriously. As far as doing my job, I was always excellent at my job. I always got, you know, super high credit and whatnot for doing my job. But it was the outside of the job and getting adjusted and actually learning how to be a man and deal with difficult circumstances that had me on the back foot for a while until it snapped. And you know, someone talked to me and let me know that, you know, if I was kept going the way I was going, then, you know, my military career wasn't going to be what I thought it was.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, the difference between the the Marines and the other ones, like the Air Force and things like that?
We do more with less. We are trained a little bit further, a lot of bit further than your normal branches, right? For example, you can go to the Army and be a cook and never have to really worry about shooting a gun, right? In the Marine Corps, if you're a cook, you got to not only be able to shoot, you got to be proficient with it, right? Because every Marine is a basic rifleman. You should be able, the way it's structured, I should be able to pull someone out of someone who's a secretary or someone who's a supplyman or someone who's, you know, a mechanic and put them in the same fighting hole, and they should be able to lay down accurate, you know, fire in their fields of fire and do their job.
So you say, like, the men in Marines are more versatile in a sense?
Absolutely. Because we're air, land, and sea. So we have to swim.
Air, land, and sea.
Air, land, and sea. We have to swim. We have our own planes. We even have a certain subset of Marines who have special jobs. Right? Like recon and stuff like that. Right.
Gotcha. So,
and we're a subset of the Navy. So all Marines and all Navy personnel have to be able to swim.
Got you. So you look back at that experience, the whole almost military experience. How do you think it's changed you as a man, the way you think, the way you act, the good and bad, and the ugly?
I don't regret being a Marine. I could never regret being a Marine because I learned so much from all those people I could not stand.
Right.
I learned, you know, how to be humble.
Yeah.
Right, how to take criticism, right, how to push myself further than I normally would have thought that I could push myself. I'm able to know that no matter how tough the job is, I can get it done because I've been in situations where it took not just physical fortitude but mental fortitude, right, and not just mental fortitude, but you had to be excellent in your job, right, in order to be a complete Marine. And I've always wanted to be I'm competitive. Right. I don't want anyone to be better than me. I don't want anybody to look at me as Marine and say, oh, you know, that guy's better, or his boots are shine better, or he's more creased, or he has more knowledge. So when it comes to that, I was always pressed. I was always, you couldn't find
a crease in you.
You could, well, a crease out of place, right? Yeah. Everything was measured to the millimeter with the ruler, literally. You know, because I was the Marine that I wanted to be the kind of Marine that other people looked up to and be like, yeah, I want to be like that dude. Right? Coming from my background, you know, that says a lot, especially trying to integrate with a whole bunch. You got to remember, I was born in the 70s, so the black-white interaction wasn't really something that I had other than in school, right? And then, you know, of course, after school, they went where they lived, and we went to the PJs.
Facts.
So, I got off tangent a little bit.
No.
But learning how to get along with so many different races. Like, I had an Eskimo. I lived with a literal Eskimo guy, a guy from Alaska who was an actual Eskimo, a descendant. I've lived with people from Jamaica, right? Yeah. And a guy from Mexico, people of all races.
So it sounds like it even opened your eyes to more culture and diversity.
Absolutely, because if you're not around people, you don't know they're people. They're just white, black, or Mexican.
Yeah.
You don't think of them as people. You think of them as what you see them as. And so once, you know, you meet somebody named Fernandez and you're out and you're messing around and you're doing dumb stuff in the bar, you get in a fight and Fernandez comes out of nowhere and he got your back. Yeah. You look at Fernandez a little different.
Yeah.
Hoorah, double dog. You know what I'm saying? So even learning things from other people being open to sharing their experiences with you. I had no idea that I would like country music until I had a roommate, and he was Corporal Bowles, ended up being Sergeant Bowles. And he used to play freaking, what's the guy that used to close at the rodeo all the time? Garth Brooks. He used to play Garth Brooks nonstop. And it used to drive me batty. And I mean batty. Because it was his radio and I couldn't play my stuff on it, right? So, and then after a while, you know, it was like he would play Garth and I'd be like, hey man, play that Thunder Roll song. So,
that's the same thing as like at football practice. Like they play any type of music, and then you start being a fan of music. You didn't know
right, you know think you're right. Like I learned to like rock and roll.
Just a little bit more.
Scotch, right? Pop I always liked because I grew up, you know, MTV. That's all they played at the time, and on the radios you didn't have a whole lot of, you know, unless you had a black station. Yeah, everything was always popping. In other cultures, so it was a Marine to me the Marines molded me or gave me the imprint of what I wanted to be as a grown man. I wanted to be neat. I wanted to be clean. I wanted to be meticulous. Right, I wanted to be able to cross the T's and dot the I's in any situation I was in, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, and you go through all of that.
And like, is there anything like not bad, but did it create any habits that you don't like now as a man?
Yes. I'm hard on civilians.
Right.
I see people in the way they dress.
Temper?
I didn't have the best temper in the beginning, in the first place. But like, I hate to see people doing sloppy work. I hate to see people doing anything half-assed, halfway. I don't like that. It drives me batty. Because I know that if you just took just that much more time, then you could get all the little details done and out of the way. You do a better job. It's that self-pride thing, right? I was told that the measure of a man is not what people see when they're around you, but what you do when you're by yourself. Right? When there's no one to monitor you, right? So for me, I measure myself by the things that I'm willing to do, you know, for myself and others, when there's going to be no recognition or nobody patting me on the back and saying, oh, you did a good job.
That's important.
Right?
That's important.
For me, it's that internal pride to say, I did my best on that. No matter how it comes out, you know, I did my best. And that's basically all I can do.
Because a lot of our world is fueled on validation or just getting by and stuff.
This new world is filled on immediate validation. And everybody's equal. And everybody deserves everything, and they don't have to work for it.
And
they just deserve it because they exist.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that bothers me as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it just doesn't go like that.
Right. I mean, it's the world, and it is what it is. I just, you know me, I'm introverted. I just stay away from people so I don't get bothered or triggered.
Yeah.
Because I'm as calm as I am at 52. It's because I learned at 22 that hitting somebody in the mouth is not the way to go all the time.
Yeah.
Right. I've had a lot of misunderstandings.
Right.
Right. And I wish, if anything, I was able to control my temper.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's funny you said it, 'cause that almost leads to my next question. I was going to ask you, how has the military changed the way you interacted with people? You know what I mean? When you come from so much order and, you know, as be this, and then you come to this place, not chaos, but on uniform.
I don't like being around it, so I tend to shy away from it.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like being around people. I don't like people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it like, oh, I don't like people, but I don't like the way people do things, the way people move sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, people are so inconsiderate and so self-centered.
Yeah.
Like, it's more, when I was growing up, it was the 70s and I'm bringing it was so much love, and everybody, you know, everybody looked out for each other, right?
Yeah.
It was more, if someone seen, you know, someone who looked like me and they looked like me and I was in a tough situation, they would help.
Yeah.
Right now, they would pull out a camera and record.
Yeah.
Right, it's content. So, you know, just that different shift in mind state of how people interact with their world is different. It's jarring to me because I want to be like a really good person. Like, I want to be the kind of person that other people are like, hey, when I'm growing up, people are like, hey, that was a good dude.
Yeah.
Right, but it's hard to do that when I'm constantly being triggered by people who are so rude that they'll bump you and not say anything.
Yeah.
To me, that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Right, so, you know, my significant other has to calm me down.
You're right.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like, a lot.
So are you saying that if you didn't go to the military per se, do you think you'd be more sociable?
Oh no, I'd probably be. If I didn't go to the military, I'd probably be in jail or dead.
Really? So it trained you out.
Yes, I had discipline. Don't get me wrong. I had discipline, but I didn't have a fatherly figure for discipline. Right? It's my mama. I love my mama to death. I respect her, but she wasn't no man.
And that's facts.
Right? So she could only do as much as she could do. It took me being around men, right, to see how men moved. Right? It took me being around men to see how men handle problems. Because women and men don't always handle problems the same way. It took me being around men to learn that, you know, as much as I want to say or act, I have to control myself to a certain degree, because there's certain things that men don't do in this culture, and I had to adapt to that.
So what was like your favorite thing in the military? I mean, I'm like
the people I met.
Huh? The what?
People I met.
The people you met?
Oh, I got people it's been, what, 20, 30 years?
Yeah.
And I got people that I'm still super close to today.
That's cool.
Not as many, you know, because people fall by the wayside and whatnot, but there are some relationships that I formed in the Marine Corps that I treasure. Yeah. Right? Because they were with me during my formative years as a man, because I was still a child.
Right.
Like at 19, I was still a child.
Right.
And I didn't know that. Right. I thought I was 19. I'm grown. Right. I can make decisions. I can do. I wasn't. Right. Because I didn't know how to make good decisions, because I didn't have an example of those good decisions. So being around those people and growing with those people and them knowing me and from the way I was then into the way I am now, and usually people look at me and they'll be like, boy,
yeah,
something else, man.
Yeah, for you. And okay, we talk about you being so smart and your nose always being in books. Where did that develop, and what's your relationship with books now?
I didn't have nothing. I grew up. I didn't have like a bunch of toys and other options. Right. My most treasured possession was my library card.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
No, serious talk. Because the bookmobile, we had bookmobiles. They would, you know, you can go to certain places back in the day. It'd be literally they would come to the poorer areas, right? And they'd have books that you could check out, or you could request a book, and the next time the bookmobile came by a week or two later, then you could get that book.
Right.
And so for me, I'm very, I'm not just visual, but my mind is very creative. So once I stimulate that, I can read something in a book and I can see it vividly.
Right.
So I would get lost in books, like, and not books that you would think. Like, I was reading the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? I was reading Tom Huck and I mean Tom Huck Finn. And
Yeah,
Tom
I know.
Sawyer.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know.
Right. I was reading those. I was reading, but and also reading copious amounts of comic books.
Yeah.
Right. Like, always into whatever it was that I was extremely interested in animals. Like, so my mom, I don't know where she got the money from or how she scrubbed that money up, but she bought us a it's called Encyclopedia Britannica edition, but it was all animals, the A animals, B animals, C animals, D animals,
All the way to Z.
and bruh, I would open a book in the morning, and I'd look up, it'd be afternoon, I'd have to
Wow,
go
like
eat.
it was just.
I'd go
fly
back to
home.
eat. I'd look up, it's time to eat again.
Yeah.
Right, I would literally get lost in books. So I have the kind of brain that I love information. I want to learn so much,
Yeah.
right? So you can learn from so many different places, and books are the one place that you can learn that you don't need anybody else to try to teach you their version of.
Yeah.
Right, you get to decipher it. Whatever you get from that, you get from that. And that's your experience, because
Yeah.
I can read a book and you can read a book and you can get
Two different things.
right. Even though we know the moral of the story at the end, or we got the plot or whatever, it's those things that light up something in my brain.
Gotcha, yeah.
Right.
And it was kind of like an escape for you going
Absolutely.
up? And
Absolutely.
the way you run up and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you were to give a rough estimate, like, you think you've read over, like, what, 5,000 books in your life?
Way more than that.
That way more?
Yeah, I probably read this year, what is it, February, March? I've probably read 30 books.
30 books already, yeah. And just some context, like,
You know.
yeah, some context. We live together, right? And I'll come upstairs and he's on the sofa reading away. It's just a black screen with white text, and he's just scrolling, just gaining more knowledge. And that's something I really appreciate, like, because I don't know too many book readers out there. I mean, the world's getting more digitized and stuff like that. And then I feel like the real authentic knowledge is in pages. You know what I mean? And it can't be tampered with and stuff like that.
When you read a book, you get the author's spin on the book and just his spin on the book.
Yeah.
You don't get the producer and the creator and the director, right? It's not a movie where this is somebody else's interpretation of those words.
Yeah.
And for me, that was important,
Gotcha.
right? Because I wanted to learn things myself.
Yeah.
I like being taught, don't get me wrong, but if I could learn it myself, then to me that was way more valuable.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
So, I'm super excited to take in these new docs we're going to take in with the new house, right? And I'm curious as to your relationship with your best friend Penny. Your relationship with your best friend Penny. Could you talk me through that, and like how much does that mean to you? Because she's obviously going to pass soon, and there might be someone else that might be going through the same thing. So how are you processing that? Then please take your time.
Ooh, you surprised me with that one. I wasn't ready for that. Well, most people won't have the opportunity, or will ruin the opportunity. Now, if they have the opportunity of meeting someone who is a genuine good person. And I had the opportunity, I met her as a client. And so I had an opportunity, and it's weird, right? I'm at this time, 40-something-year-old black man. She's a 50-something-year-old, white woman, right? And it's weird how you can build a friendship with someone, and you know me, I don't trust anybody. I'm not trusting. I'm not that kind of person. So she kept insisting, right, knowing that, I was living, making good money, and I wasn't doing anything dumb, but I wasn't financially savvy.
Yeah.
right? And she saw that, and she knew that she could help me to build my business and boost my income and change the way I was living, because I was living well below my means, right? Because I didn't know anything about credit, so I was just saving money. I knew I needed it, didn't know what to do with it. I was just stacking money, and she, did a lot for me. That in that means and in that way, and as a friend, just giving me advice. Hey, don't do that. And being able to bounce stuff off of her and know that I would get an unfiltered response. Like most people can't find that, or they don't have that. They don't have somebody who will tell them the truth whether they want to hear it or not. Right? You got that because you got me. Right? You got your mom. Right? So I don't believe in sugarcoating anything. I believe in the truth is what it is. Right? It's not always going to be something you want to hear, but I'd rather you tell me the truth and let me deal with it now than to sugarcoat something and I find out that it's worse later. And she was able to come in and be like, hey, you're messing that up, right? You need to do this, 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 and this. And me being a 40-some-year-old man, and like, you telling me what to do. Right? But finally listening to her and looking at how much she had accomplished, how much she has accomplished, because she's not going yet, how much she has accomplished in her life. And it made me want to be better, right? From looking at it from a whole totally different perspective. And she had these two little bitty dogs, and they were awful. They were awful because she spoiled the crap out of them. Of course, my knowledge is dogs. Her knowledge is in other places. But she was absolutely ignorant when it came to how to raise a dog properly. And so, of course, there was issues with them with housebreaking and aggression and
so it's not like y'all were like perfect for each other in a sense. Y'all both met a need that y'all needed at the
time. It was pretty good. I would never change that.
I didn't mean to like sneak up on you, but I mean I just can't imagine losing my best friend, and you've been very strong throughout this process, at least from what I've seen. And I just can't wait, because I don't know Penny personally. We met a couple times, right, on holidays, but I cannot wait to take in her dogs and hopefully carry on and take care of dogs that she loved and things like that. You know what I mean?
That having that bond with them, being there from them, of course, being my best friend, being there from them since the day she, landed on her flight from Canada to go pick up these dogs. Right, her children. I've been in their lives since, literally at least 3 days a week from, the time they were, here. And so they're my dogs, too, right? She's her owner, but they're my dogs as well. If you ask them from the way they see me. And so I'd feel some kind of way if I wasn't able to get those dogs and take care of them, because those dogs mean a lot to me. Not because I helped raise them and train them, but because they're Penny's dogs, and she's
that's so cool. That's so cool. That's so cool. Just a few more questions if we're gonna get you up out of here, because I know you got somewhere to be. So how did you get into dog training?
Man, well, my son. So I was pregnant with my son. I like to say it like that because I feel like it's not just a woman who goes through a pregnancy. If you're there for that woman, then you're going to go through that pregnancy as well, if you're any kind of man. Right? So we were pregnant, and my living and work situation wasn't optimal. Right? Plus, up to that, I wasn't grown. Right? Up to that point in time, my age said I was grown, but my actions did not. So I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have a place to stay. I'm sleeping on people's couches. I get money, I burn it. And it was all about living life for me. And then he came along, and I knew that I had to do something. And his mom was like, well, why don't you like dogs so much, why don't you train dogs? And my private school educated self. We don't train dogs. We're doctors, we're lawyers, she said, we're pregnant.
Number one.
Right, so I went and I applied at this place, and from the moment I started, I knew that I would never do anything else. Because I had been training dogs or being around dogs or had dogs, and remember that love for animals that I had to get lost in those encyclopedias, right? So all that basically culminated in me having an opportunity to be at a place where I could learn from people who knew how to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And so, man, I was a sponge. I worked with some great trainers, and I had my own way. And a lot of the trainers, and they'll probably never admit it, a lot of the trainers didn't have the same feel with the dogs as I did. Mm-hmm. Like, they would get a dog and they couldn't get it to sit, and I'd get to sit. And as a novice trainer, we'd get the dog and sit in like 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Because I had a great psychology teacher, rest in peace, Dr. Bailey, love you to death. My psychology teacher allowed me to bring my Doberman to class when I was in college.
Oh, really?
I had a Doberman in college. And so, and man, we got to talk about all the cognitive developments and all the other ways that dogs develop in stimulus and response to stimulus and all of that stuff. And so having that in my mind and having a dog at that time and kind of bootleg training her, and she ended up being trained really well. Just it took me way longer than it should have because I really didn't know what I was doing. And then having that experience and being able to apply it at that facility, it gave me an insight clinically, as well as being around dogs and loving dogs and training all my friends' dogs and working, and doing all that kind of thing. It allowed me a certain level of comfort.
Gotcha.
And then I just have a way with dogs.
Yeah, you just
like I can feel them in their energy and their emotion. I know that sounds weird. It's probably not going to play well on the internet, but it gives me the opportunity to be able to connect with the dog. Yeah. And if you can connect with the dog, it's easier to train a dog, right? Yeah. And something I learned, if a dog likes you, he'll be more open to learning from you. If a dog is worried about you or scared of you, he will still learn, but he'll learn in a different way. Yeah. And that way sometimes is more stressful, and it causes the dog to develop other issues or have other issues during training that you have to fix. So having a gift allowed me to get in there and actually roll with that, and it ended up being a really good thing for me.
Gotcha. So what's your favorite breed to train?
Doberman.
Dogs?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I've always been, I say we grew up in the PJs. Dobermans were really big when I grew up. And there was a guy who lived in our projects. He had these 2 big, terribly mean Dobermans. And no one could touch him. No one could get close to him. It was just him. Yeah. And as a child, from what my mother tells me, I was just drawn to those dogs. So she turned her back one day, and I'm walking up on them dogs, and the dogs is like, they don't know what to do. I by all rights, I probably should have been mauled. Right. Because I walked right up to the doggies and started loving on the doggies. And when the man turned around, his eyes got this big. It was a big deal. So the dogs accepted me. Yeah. And so that was my first experience. And then watching TV, there was a TV show called Magnum P.I. And they had some dogs. They had 2 Dobermans named Zeus and Apollo. Loved them. They had a film when I was a kid. It was called the Doberman Gang, where they trained all these Dobermans to rob a bank. Yeah. Right. Right. One of my favorite movies. Yeah. Right. So I had an opportunity to get one. But I was stereotypical, person from my upbringing. Gotcha. So it was about pit bulls, and I had pit bulls for a long time, and I loved them, and they were all great. And then I had an opportunity to get a Doberman, and from that point on, it was
easy, right? And it's kind of unique because my cousin really is getting into dog training. He already loves it. So what is it about dog training that makes that dog trainers love doing it so much?
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
To teach to take a dog and teach a dog sit is a simple thing. But to take a dog and teach it to walk or work a certain way, move a certain way, do it in any kind of environment, see the joy on those parents. For example, I do a lot of behavioral modification. So I've literally saved marriages, right? Literally. Mom has a dog, daddy got a dog.
Yeah.
They get together, they get married, thinking everything's gonna work.
Uh-huh.
Dogs don't like dogs though.
Right.
Right, especially if one dog's big and the other dog's small and you're getting this little butt whoop, right?
Yeah.
So to be able to come in, because that's a deal breaker for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right, so for me to be able to come in and say, hey, we're gonna handle these dogs this way and get these dogs to behave this way. If you do these things and you change these behaviors with yourself, it'll allow you to change those behaviors with the dog, because you'll treat the dog differently.
Yeah.
Right, and train the dog, make the dog listen to you and respect you first. Because if the dog will respect you first, then that dog will be able to listen in any situation.
Yeah.
It's just hard to get a dog to that level the same way it is to get a person to that level.
Yeah.
Right. So if you ask me what it is for me, it's the fact that I love dogs, right, and I love seeing the growth in dogs. Like having a puppy, and you're that's scared of its shadow, and a year and a half later, it's the baddest protection dog that I've ever trained.
Yeah, that must be so cool.
So it's that.
And lastly, Malcolm, had a man for 52, went through the military, had a bunch of experiences with dogs, people, and all sorts of things. What's advice you would give to someone that my age group moving forward in their way of life?
Be open to criticism. You have to welcome criticism. Yeah. If people don't criticize you, then there's something wrong, because no one's perfect.
Yeah.
So if someone says, hey, you're doing this wrong, be receptive enough to listen. I didn't say you had to follow their instructions, but be receptive enough to listen. Because even if you don't take everything they said, you can take something from what they said and you can build on it.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm very receptive and open to criticism, because I welcome change. People are stuck in change. I welcome change.
Yeah.
Right. The only thing in this world that remains constant is change. Well, and gravity. As one of my fraternity brothers pointed out to me a couple of days ago. So that's gonna give everybody an opportunity, especially your age, an opportunity to really, really grow. Yeah. Can you pause for a second?
Yeah. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Great stuff. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see y'all next Monday.
See y'all next. Thank you.
That's what I drank. Only sin purple, not green. One guard, I be pissing lane. Probably still rockin' Celine. Bitch, I'm a druggie, I keep popping pin. Can I show you what I seen? Body language hard to read. And babe, if you hungry, this dick what I feed. Can I come slide to your crib?